Welcome back to Eliances Heroes, where heroes in business align. To be part of our super community and find out more about Eliances, visit www.Eliances.com.
That's right, and we're back. And by the way, thank you so much again for the previous feedback we had when I had on Aaron Kerman. You're wondering who's that? Well, guess what? He sold over $3 billion in sales of real estate. I think he owns like one of the records or world record for one of the sales for being the most expensive home. You could check out past interviews by going to Eliances.com, Eliances.com, and click on the radio interviews. And speaking of homes, we've got a very special guest today. That is Sean Doherty. He is with Good Look Home Inspections. He's the owner, and you could reach him at giveitagoodlook.com. So Sean, welcome to the show. And I just want to jump right in. We've got people that are doing new builds. We've got people that are buying, previous homes and stuff. Does it matter if you're getting, though, a home that's new? Why would you need to have any type of inspection, especially if it's with a builder or some, with a what's fairly a reputable builder?
Great question, David, and thank you for having us on today. According to the new builds, it's fairly difficult to really get deep into why people need an inspection. But for the most part, many people walk these homes either weekly or monthly or with the builder or with their dad who's in construction or their best friend or even people that are in construction. And a lot of times people look at defects and don't even realize that they're wrong. And without having a professional who is experienced in doing that, then you would never really know to even ask the builder to make those corrections and not have to deal with those problems either long-term issues, but even when you go to sell the home, when that person has a professional inspection done on the property, then when they discover those deficiencies or defects, then it's going to be out of your pocket to make those repairs when it could have been the builder.
Now, what about, though, if it's a new builder, though, and especially an expensive builder? I mean, there's now expensive homes now. I mean, every home's going up. It seems to be that way and stuff.
Yes.
But is there any validation or anything if I'm using and paying more for a home, supposedly getting higher quality things, that there would still be a need for an inspection?
It's a great question. Out of my experience, I could say that the more expensive of the home, then actually the more problems I have actually been finding. And we would really hope that would not be the case. It really kind of starts with custom builders or private builders. Those seem to be a little bit more expensive because they're on private lots, having private sales. Those tend to be a little bit worse than the big franchise builders. But definitely not the more expensive the home, the bigger problems. Maybe the more expensive the home, then the better finish or materials, but it's still some of the same trades that are doing the installs or the work.
Now, how do most people find a home inspector? Some of them will just do a Google search. Maybe they'll look at reviews and that. But what kind of questions should they really ask? Because, and having had personal experience, no two home inspectors on the same. So what kind of questions should somebody ask? And if they're interested in hiring you, what are those questions too that they should be asking that should differentiate from others?
I'm very excited that you asked that. That is one of the biggest things that I try to get the word out on. And a lot of people, they take the word of their real estate agent. And I'm not trying to say that whoever the real estate agent is referring is not reputable, but for the most part, that is an established relationship that they have, and they know that they can keep their transaction moving from step 1 to step 2 to step 3 to close smoothly or flawlessly. And sometimes making relationships with people that keep those transactions moving without any hiccups. So one question I really don't like, and I don't mind it, but it's always the first question that everybody always asks when they call and they say, hey, I have a house. How much does it cost to get an inspection? And I always tell people that that's probably the last question you should ask. Yes, it's an interview process. Interview your home inspectors. Call many of them. Call as many as you want, or however, until you feel comfortable with who you hire. But the last question should be, what do you charge? The first question should be, what is your experience? What are your certifications? Maybe are you insured, which they should be if they're licensed in the state of Arizona. Also, what services are provided with that inspection, because nothing is always assumed or should not be. If your inspector is going to do infrared, is it automatic or is it an additional charge? Are they I like to say, are you qualified or certified? Because just because you're certified to do an inspection on something doesn't mean you're necessarily qualified. Just because the state will let someone do a pool inspection doesn't mean that they have the proper certifications or training to do one. So you should ask those questions. What training have you done to be certified to do mold, sewer scopes, infrared, termite, wood destroying insect? These are all questions that people should be asking, not just are you certified or licensed to do it, but what qualifications do you actually have to conduct that service?
Got it. Sean, I don't understand though. And this is what I don't understand. If a house has a certificate of occupancy, doesn't that mean everything should be working and up to code and standard? And, why pay for anything additional?
I hear that so much. I hear that every day. And every single one of these houses that we're inspecting have gone through a city or municipal inspection process. So they either have their certificate of occupancy or they have had their final inspections by the city inspector. Now, I can tell you, we do run some social media pages and we show every single day that there are safety violations, code violations, manufacturer specification violations, and Arizona minimum workmanship standard violations that are not being met. And so many people, this is the most important thing that many need to hear and grasp, is that city inspectors are not quality control. City inspectors are there to check on structural issues or code violations or safety issues. Quality of workmanship or materials is not part of that process. So those are the items that are 99% of the time overlooked, but I'm still every single day finding safety code violations, building code violations, and people are imperfect. And it's not to bash on any group, but every one of these social media posts that we're doing are always showing these flaws that are missed. And people assumed that these were inspected and met the standards, and they did not.
Great. And again, you're listening to me, David Kogan, host of the Eliances Heroes Show. Make sure that you go to Eliances.com. That's ELIANCES.com. We have with us Sean Doherty. He's with Good Look Home Inspections, and you can reach him at giveitagoodlook.com. All right, Sean. So this came in from one of our listeners too. What's the weirdest thing that you found during an inspection?
Weirdest? That's a fun question. At this point, nothing surprises me anymore. On doing sewer camera inspections on the sewer lines, we're finding tools left behind or got dropped down the plumbing. And even though the city or there was an inspection saying that, hey, the sewer line was jetted or inspected, we're still finding tools. That's kind of interesting a lot of times. Light switches that are like in different rooms, those are always kind of interesting. You go into the bedroom to turn the light on and there's no light switch, and then you have to go in the bathroom and it's like on the other side of the wall, and it's like, how did this go through the whole building process and nobody caught this? So I would say that's probably some of the funniest stuff, but nothing surprises me anymore. It's very interesting. It's a daily entertainment.
Now, do you use any tech tools besides your eyes?
Absolutely. Honestly, you have to. We're using, so every job site, we're using squares to check the walls, infrared imaging. It's so funny when we post videos, people are always like, you're an inspector, why are you carrying a tool belt? And it's like, well, because we're using all sorts of tools to open, mechanical systems and get into those systems to inspect them. So yeah, it's you should have a wide, we have sewer cameras, infrared imaging, we have like levels. There's an endless amount. Like my entire truck is full of gear, and not all of it is used every single day, but many times, like every single level, screwdriver, setup blocks, all of that's being used every day.
Now, do sellers also hire you to do any home inspection before they put it on the market or that? Does that ever happen?
Very popular. We do get those pre-listing inspections. We get those all the time just so that they don't have any of those surprise moments. They're under contract. They find someone that wants to purchase their home. They fell in love with the property. And then there's a big surprise that they never noticed. It happens even on new builds and resales. People live in their home for years and never knew that they had an issue. And then when they have an inspection, that's a big surprise that can cause a hiccup in the transaction. So we hear that all the time. Yeah, sellers, listing agents call us and organize it, or the sellers organize those as well.
Now, so somebody, they hire you or they hire an inspector to come out to do the services, to do the repairs, or to actually do the inspection. Then they're giving that report typically to who's ever selling the home, right? I mean, that's the next process. Then after that, the person who they're buying the home from typically will say, okay, all of these are done. Maybe this one isn't, but regardless, they're coming back and they're saying it's done. Is there anything else that the buyer should do then at that point, because they have, quote, proof of the letter that says all of these things were done that that your inspector found? Should you just then leave it at that, or do what?
Well, if we're speaking primarily, this is a great example on new builds. So we go through and we do an inspection on a new build home prior to them closing on the property, and then they give the punch list or repair list to the builder to make all those final repairs before they close on the home. Well, an average report can, a decent home probably has about 50 defects. And then a poor built home could have 105, 110 defects. And if the builder says, hey, we repaired all of those, I wouldn't believe anything that they say. Honestly, it's obviously making repairs cost them time. They have to take people off of other job sites to get this job done. One thing they're always going to say is, we're short of manpower anyway. So they might have the electrician do someone else's job, or who knows. The problem is most of the time, I would say almost 100% of the time when I go out on a re-inspection, I would say they said they made most of the repairs, and usually 50% of those were not done. Even if they said I was there and watched them do it, they're still not done. Like it was just I don't know, I don't want to say a lie, but it's just they're not doing what they're saying they're doing.
Wow. And out of all the homes you've inspected and stuff, have you ever, walked into one and said, nope, I'm out, just too dangerous, or something of that matter?
On a resale, I had that happen. I did call an agent and I said, hey, I don't know if you were familiar with what's going on, but we went into the home and there were some, transients or homeless people living in there. And there was, fecal matter on the walls, and they actually built a kind of like a campfire in the middle of the living room, and there was smoke damage all through the house. And there was literally people going in and out of the house, and I just wasn't comfortable being in there. And so I just walked out and I said, hey, this is not a safe environment. Nobody knew. The listing agents, nobody knew. And it wasn't like that when the buyer looked at the house. But over the weekend, apparently a bunch of people had broken into the home and used it for, an overnight stay, I guess.
Gosh, so sad to hear and stuff of that.
But for new builds,
is there anything kind of at the end of a summary or anything of that where there's like a pass or fail for inspection? Or is it just, is there a such thing as a pass or fail?
I don't want to say pass or fail because our job as the third party inspector is to notify or report on the condition of the home at the time of the inspection. We're not there to say, you failed this, you're not allowed to close. We're not an enforcement agency. We're there to make sure that the potential buyer understands the condition of the home and they know what they are getting for their money. It is up to, even if I have a list of 100 things, some buyers say, hey, a lot of this doesn't bother me. I only want 10 things fixed. And then they can just work with the seller to have those things fixed. Nothing is a pass or a fail. I may feel like I may not want that property, but that's not relayed to them. That's not our job to tell them whether I would buy it or not. Our job is to let them know the current condition and then make sure that they're well informed at that time.
What about the most, I don't know if the word's popular, or the most errors that you're seeing in homes, or the most, the most issues that you're seeing with homes that they have in common, where it's just they're not passing that part of the inspection?
The most common things are going to be stuff that people can't see. It is usually in the attics with broken trusses, damaged trusses, missing gusset plates. A lot of that comes down to a huge thing that's kind of personal to me, and I love to talk about it, is limitations that the builder puts on the inspectors, because a lot of people don't realize that when they're ordering an inspection from a new build, they actually prevent the inspector from having access to specific areas. So we can get back into that later, but some of the most common things are usually structural issues. Doing sewer scopes on the lateral sewer lines. Usually I'm finding like broken sewer lines, offsets improper drainage, bellies. So those are things that you really won't know about until you move in and you start using those systems. And then when they're backing up, because we found tools in the sewer lateral lines, or the offset is catching debris and it's backing up into the home, now you got to move out of the house, because they're going to, take a tractor and they're going to dig those lines out in the front yard, and you can't turn any water on while they're doing that.
Right. How do you stop yourself when you're visiting someone's home, a friend in that, and just not see through kind of that X-ray vision going, oh, I noticed that. I noticed that.
You don't stop yourself. You see it everywhere. Everywhere. You can't go. I go on vacation. We were on a cruise, and I was seeing water damage on the cruise, and it's everywhere you go. You see things that are wrong. You just can't unsee it. And that's why I tell some people too. It's like, I'm going to tell you what I found on the inspection, but once I tell you, you're not going to be able to unsee this.
Right. And it doesn't seem like a common thing that somebody who's buying a new home would hire an inspector, right? I mean, it's not as common, correct?
Golly, I'm so amazed. I'm so amazed by so many people that say, I didn't think I needed an inspection. The builder, it's a very popular thing. We say this, we post on our social media all the time, people saying literally, the builder told me I did not need an inspection, or wait till the 1 year and have your inspection then. The only person that benefits from a 1 year inspection without doing a pre-close inspection is the builder. Your warranties are voiding or expiring. Let's say expiring. Your warranties are expiring the longer you own the home. So a lot of people think that you have a 1 year warranty, but many of those warranties expire after 10 days, and people don't realize that. So when you have cracked tiles, chipped corners, and damaged cabinet frames, if it can be, tripped or chipped, cracked, scratched, broken, a lot of those things only have a 10-day manufactured services warranty.
They wouldn't know. So and I want to round it, kind of start winding things up here and stuff like that. But another question that we've gotten that somebody emailed in, and this is in regards to what more are the specific questions as they're looking to hire an inspector, do they need to ask? Like, is there a thing of licensing? Like, what other specific questions should they be asking to make sure that it's an inspector who is as qualified as you, and maybe they're in a different state and they're not able to use you or something like that, because otherwise everyone else is listening, they're going to call you. Give it a goodlook.com.
Happy to help them when they do call us. The first question I would say is, what services do you provide? Because you need to know what the baseline is without the additional charges. So if you're doing a basic home inspection, then what does that include? Does that include you going on the roof? I definitely think your inspector needs to go on the roof. There's a lot of people that only use drones because they're scared to get on a ladder, and that's kind of weird to think, but I'm telling you, there's a lot of inspectors that do not go on roofs. So they just fly a drone. And so does your inspector go on the roof? Do they go in the attic? Are they licensed in wood destroying pests? And do they provide a report for that? And do they do, so that might be the end of it. And do they do infrared? We always include infrared on every single inspection, because if you're not doing that, you're missing out. And sometimes if you're going to charge for something, people just won't do it. So we say, okay, we're just not going to charge for it. We're just going to do it for everybody because it's too important of a tool not to include. And then those ancillary services, are you going to do a sewer scope? Are you going to do a pool inspection? Does your pool guy do that? Many, many times a home inspector will say, hey, I'll do the inspection, but we're going to use this pool company to do the pool inspection, or we're going to just outsource the termite inspection to this guy. And that's just a lot of moving parts. So coordinating a lot of different schedules. So having an inspector that does all of those things and is certified in all of those things, but just also qualified to do all those things is super important. But also check out their Google reviews. Those right there. I mean, a lot of your Google reviews will tell you how people feel about using that company.
Excellent advice. Excellent advice. Well, you heard it here from someone who sees the bones of every deal. Sean Doherty of Good Look Home Inspections. Whether you're buying, selling, or just curious, he reminds us, don't skip the inspection. Give it a good look. Find out more at giveitagoodlook.com. This has been David Cogan with the Eliances Hero Show. Sean, it's been an honor having you on the air today.
Thank you so much. God bless you guys. Thank you.
But you got to dance with me a little bit too.
All right.